Hey guys, Brenna Aubrey's having some technical difficulties, so we're just waiting to see.
Hi.
Ah, technical difficulties, gotta love them.
Gotta turn you up. I can't hear you. I am so Instagram illiterate.
It's fine, you know. We manage, right?
Yes, yes.
So how are you?
Good. Good. I think Jason's waiting for us. Do you want to add him first, or do you
Yes.
want to talk a minute and then add him?
Let's talk a minute. Let's
Okay.
let's prepare ourselves.
I hope people aren't confused about where to find this, but they'll be able to see it on both of our feeds.
Yes, it'll see
Oh,
that you've gone live, and then when Jason comes up, show that Jason's live, and so then it will just all be bunched together.
okay, great. Awesome.
So, who's ready for Jason?
I see a lot of people who are very excited. I'm excited. I've never been able to talk to Jason before. We've worked together, together for like, I think 6 years now.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, I know. And I've never actually had a chance to speak to him.
I'm excited for you.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, should we bring him on? Bring
Sure.
him on. Well, we're going to try and bring him on. Hang on.
Yes. Hey, at least you know what you're doing.
Sometimes, don't tell everybody though. There we go. Right. Hopefully, that's the trick.
Mr. Man. The Mr. Man is coming.
Yes. Hey, Cookie. All my people are in the
I think most of these
comments.
people are here to see Jason, not me.
I don't know. I think I got some questions for you as well.
Oh, okay, good. Or I'll just be like the third wheel in this whole thing. Somebody just passed out.
Cookie just
He's
passed
not here
out.
yet. He's not here yet.
He's here. He's waving.
He
Hang on.
is?
Hang on.
I
Hang
can't
on.
see him. Oh well.
Let me try again.
We just
Okay.
want to be able to hear him, right? The voice.
Oh,
The
it's
golden
saying
voice.
that. Okay, it's saying that Jason doesn't have the latest Instagram. He needs to update his app.
Oh, okay.
Jason, you
Um,
need to update your app. Quick.
hey, you know what, Jason? No judgment here. I don't even know how to do it. So,
Hey, we're not judging.
maybe he's updating? Is he going to update real quick or we can postpone this, I guess?
I just feel like
Yeah,
it's just
technology is fun. Oh, I
prolonging
see.
the
Oh,
excitement.
Jason, don't be embarrassed. Oh my gosh. I've never done this before.
I mean,
Okay.
I only know because
It looks
Instagram
like he's
told me. I
updating.
wouldn't have known you weren't up to date. And like, that's next level.
Well, I should have tried like in the middle of the night when, well, I mean, only people in Europe would have noticed, I guess, but I should have, I thought maybe if I monkey around a little bit, but then I thought, well, I looked like ass, so I didn't want to do it then. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just wing it, and then I'm Googling how to do it, and yeah, so I am Instagram illiterate, but I am learning.
We'll get you there.
Yeah. So, I mean, while we're waiting for Jason, did you want to ask me some of the questions? I know there were some questions for me, probably a small, tiny
Oh,
portion.
and to have one right here. This is. Have you got your thinking cap on?
Well, okay, we'll see.
This is from Karen, who she gave me. Oh, hang on. Jason wants to join us.
It's
Okay.
just water, but I could have put vodka in there. There he is, the inside of Jason's apartment.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It defaulted to my front facing. Let's see if we can All right, I got a candle. Try and set in the mood here.
Well, it's undeniably you. I'd recognize that voice anywhere.
Oh,
Yes.
gosh. Well, hey, how's it going? Sorry for the delay.
No worries. We probably would have been more delayed if Kelly hadn't stepped in and started the live. So,
Hey, I'm
you know,
good.
I'm right there with you.
I do what I can.
I think this is the first time I've heard either of your voices, just in person, or as in person as this is, like I've ever spoken
Right.
directly to you. This is so cool. After like years of, I know Brenna, like, reading your stuff, and you've probably listened to my voice a lot. I've never heard yours. I was thinking about it.
Well, I have a little bit of a confession to make. It's really, really
Uh-oh.
hard for me to listen to anyone read what I wrote. It's almost like, you know how
Okay.
people don't like listening to their own voice? I also don't like that. But also, it makes me a little squeamish to listen to other people read. And it's only been very, very recent that I've been able to go back and listen to the earlier audiobooks. Actually, it's been a great way for me to go back and refresh my memory on what I wrote.
Yeah,
Instead of having to read it, I could listen to it.
sure. Yeah, that makes.
So my assistant is the one who sends you all the corrections, and so you can blame him.
Oh, cool. All right. Well,
Anyway, but I have to say, it's funny. I was listening to you recently because I wrote this holiday book with all of the couples, so I had to go back and listen to some of the stories. And I have to say, it was almost like listening to you and Kirsten. It was almost like, listening to a whole new story. I mean, I knew the story, of course, and everything, but it had
yeah.
been a while, and it was really great to hear you guys dramatize it in that way. It was a whole new experience. It was really cool.
Yeah. Was this For the Taking that you're talking about, or was this an older title?
No, a newer one actually. For the Holidays. That's the one that comes after For the Taking. It's got all four of the couples, and they're kind of they're in a winter cabin together. It's kind of I kind of describe it as oh gosh, what's that Christmas movie with all those couples in it? It's really famous. I'm blanking. Sorry.
So much.
Love Actually.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Love Actually. It's like a Love Actually type of story with you got
There.
every
Nice.
couple has their own storyline, but they're all kind of intermingling together. So
That's so cool. No, I love it.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was fun to write, and I'm sure you'll be. Well, I don't know. We're gonna spoil that right now, Kelly. All right. Okay. No, never mind. I'll let Kelly direct this whole
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely.
Anyway.
No, you were on your way to asking Brenna a question, right, Kelly? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Right, so it's from Karen. First thing, I'm no Jason, I'm sorry, I do not do. If you could take a single photograph of your life, what would it look like?
A single photograph of my life. Wow. Well, I think just being a little bit sentimental here, I just dropped a kid off at college, and he's on the other side of the country. So it would definitely have to be a family picture of all of us, because I'm missing him a lot.
Yeah.
I got one here though, so one home, one on the other side of the country. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm sorry, that's kind of a boring answer. Would Jason? Is that a question for Jason too?
No, it was not, but it can be.
Oh boy. Uh, I'm not sure. I think it'd probably be like the park in my hometown or something. I really like wide open spaces. Um, and I spend a lot of time in spaces like that as much as I can. Um, yeah, and I love the snow. So it'd probably be snow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Snow? What's that? No, sorry. California joke.
Yeah. I mean, how was that writing for a lodge scene? I mean, I imagine that you've seen snow or spent time in the snow, but that like, did you have to like do your research?
Well, it's more of a vacation and fun thing for us. I mean, I did go to school when I went to college. It was up in the Rocky Mountains, so I mean, I did live in a place where it snowed, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right, shoot us with another one, Kelly. I think we're ready. Hit us with your best shot.
I thought you wanted to do your questions first. I mean, I can do them.
Oh yeah, sure. I have questions for Jason. I wanted to start out, but I just wanted to say just a little background. I was a brand new author in 2014, 2015, and this whole thing about audiobooks was just taking off, and everyone said, oh, you have to make audiobooks, you have to do audiobooks. So I did an audiobook for At Any Price, which all of my readers will know is only in Mia's point of view. So then I wanted to do the entire trilogy, and then as you guys know, the second book was all in Adam's point of view, so I needed to find a male narrator for At Any Price, and it was kind of interesting because I'm listening to all these auditions, like nope, and I wasn't very experienced at listening to audiobooks, so I went out and bought a bunch to kind of accustom myself to what I'm looking for. And I don't know, the minute I heard Jason's audition for Adam, I'm like, oh, perfect. He just immediately sounded like Adam to me, and it was just great because been fortunate enough to have you work on all my heroes now, and I love how you give each one of them a different voice, even though it's still the same man voicing them. To me, they sound like 4 different men. So I guess my first question is, what is your creative process when you are starting a job or when you have a job?
Thank you very much, Brenna.
Okay, yeah, I see a little spinning wheel. Can you hear me?
I don't know if it's on my
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. Okay, is everything okay? Nope.
Oh dear.
Oh wow.
Hop out of the call and rejoin. I'm having some connection issues. Sorry for any.
Okay. It's okay.
No worries at all. Technology. Oh, is he coming back? I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, he says he's going to leave and then rejoin.
Okay. Okay, well, I was just talking about my whole process, and I thought that it was really cool how Jason was able to go through. I mean, it's very similar to how an author characterizes a new character. Is when I go through and I figure out what their likes and dislikes and their history and what their certain tics are, and it was just kind of interesting to. I just wanted to know what Jason's process was for doing that. Yeah. So I'll re-ask the question when he's back.
Yeah.
But I saw a really interesting question. I am going to scroll because someone said, do authors and this is a question from, I'm sorry, Kryptonite, Kachexky, I'm sorry, I'm totally messing up your name, Kryptonite. I have a question. Do authors and narrators ever meet up, and how do you pick a book to read? Well, that second part I'm sure is a question for Jason, but gosh, what am I doing here? I brought up the keyboard on accident. Oh, here we go. I have never met Jason. In fact, we've never communicated directly until he created his Instagram account because Jason works for a studio, so all of the communication goes between my assistant and the studio, so it's very removed. So yeah, it's the first time, as Jason mentioned, the first time we've ever been able to really communicate or chat together in person. So. And as for how he picks a book to read, I know that Jason was...
He's back.
Oh.
He's back. All right.
Cool. I just know that when you auditioned for my first book, you had not done very many books at that point. You were kind of a newbie. And yeah, I don't know if you remember. I don't know, because I imagine it's kind of rare to have a whole book to do yourself. I mean, you've probably done others since, but since the book was completely from the hero's point of view, you did the entire thing, which was amazing. And so it was a lot to take on, I think, for one of your first jobs.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I was at the time, I had probably only done 2 books, so I had barely any expectations in terms of like, oh, okay, I guess some books I'll do the entire thing, because I didn't know that there was like a dual narration, especially in the romance genre. I mean, I wasn't familiar. But the previous books I had done up to that point had been split narration, so I was like, okay, well, maybe that's the norm. I'm not sure, but by the time I started doing Adam's stuff, and I remember auditioning for it, and I think it was a scene in a car. I'm not sure, but I remember.
Yeah.
I remember one of the notes was that they were like California people, so they had to have kind of that California voice, and I was like, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not going to be like the Californians, like, hey man, like, I'm not going to be doing that stuff.
Thank you for not doing that.
But so I just went in and read for it, and I'm so glad that I got it, and then I don't think I had the opportunity to read I didn't have an opportunity to read the book before the audition, but once I got it, and I was like, oh, they're all gamers, they're all game devs, this is awesome. I was like, oh, this is great. I love doing audiobooks because I like that kind of stuff. And then also just excellent. And getting to revisit it like every couple of years has been so cool.
So is it weird to hop back into, I mean, I imagine, especially with this one, because there's been quite a gap between the other ones, was it weird to kind of hop back into the older voices that, like Jordan, which I don't think you've done for like 5 or 6 years, and Adam, you had to do their voices in this last one. So was it hard? Did you have to go back and listen to your old files to figure out how you?
Yeah, I honestly went back to like the Audible samples, and I was like, okay, because I don't have the files. I mean, you mentioned that I worked through a studio, and I mostly still do, but at the time I was like, yeah, I didn't like have MP3s saved over the years, so I went back to like the listens, and I was like, okay, who, Jordan? Okay, it was fun because I knew Adam very well at that point. I was like, okay, Adam is just kind of like my voice, and I didn't have to stretch too far. And but Lucas has quite a few scenes with Jordan in this, and I wanted to make sure that I got that. So I went back and I had the old PDFs, and I was like, okay, yeah, Jordan's kind of like, she's like the businessman, straight shooter, kind of, he wants to meet deadlines. He likes making money, and I was like, okay, I can kind of get that guy. And, yeah.
Well, that's cool. That kind of leads into my question about your process when you're approaching a new role, a new book with a new character that you need to voice. How do you determine like what you think they should sound like?
Yeah, the first things that I try to understand are like, I mean, if it's the main character, usually the author provides a pretty good profile on who they are and what they do. And if they don't, even prior to the book, when I'm reading through the book, when we receive the manuscript, the text usually takes care of who the main character is and like what kind of job they have and what their status on love is. Have they ever been in love? Are they, do they have a child? So once you start to kind of get a handle on what their past has been like, I get an understanding of like, okay, this is this kind of person. And then once the author starts introducing other characters, I think like anybody reading any book, you start to kind of create the voice in your head of the person. And yeah, it all comes down to attitude and how do they relate to the main character? Like, are they friendly to them? So are they going to have a voice that's really kind and really, outgoing, or are they going to be, are they somebody from their past and they don't like the main character, right? Or so they're going to have maybe kind of a more reserved sound to them. It's things like that that add to how I characterize them. I'd say probably half the time though, I'll get authors that are like, oh, this person talks like this. I mean, I'm working on a book right now that has given 2 references to like characters in media that I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I guess, yeah, I'll just make the character sound like that. So it's a good time, and I think it's kind of come naturally to the point where I'm like, oh, I have sort of a group of voices that I can call on, and then based on whatever the unique characteristics of that character are in the book, I can tweak it to fit exactly who that person is. As best I can. Anyway.
So I know you're really busy right now because it was tough to get you scheduled. Are you just spending all of your spare time reading the books that you're about to narrate ahead of time, or I mean,
yeah,
what is that prep work like?
Yeah, so I've pretty much, there's no way for me to really read recreationally anymore.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time like in bed, or if I've just had dinner and I'm watching something, I'll just bring up my phone and start and just start looking at books that are going to be worked on in the next couple of weeks and make sure that I have an idea of like how much time I'll need to read this book. I also spend a lot of time on the train commuting to the studio where I record, so I read there. I make sure I'm prepped on the books coming up, and the commute's like an hour each way, so I get a pretty significant amount of reading done, even outside of reading out loud.
Cool. You must. What have you learned anything new or interesting about romance and all having? Because I got the impression you hadn't read many before you started working. I was just wondering what your perception of the romance genre is now that you've read so many of them.
Yeah. No, I didn't really have a familiarity with romance novels at all. I mean, I think like anybody my age or like my just demographic in general, like the kind of media that I engage with, when I think of romance novel, you think what I now know as like Harlequin romances, right? Like the ladies, men and ladies from the 1700s on the cover, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, okay, is that what? But no, it's a lot more, obviously a lot of contemporary stuff. I found that I like the books that I read a lot more than like films in the romance genre, like romantic comedies. I really like the ability to go into, especially with split narration, the ability to go into each character's thought process through the relationship. And so beyond learning sort of like the trappings and the tropes of romance novels, I've kind of gone beyond that and been like, oh, okay, so like these are the mistakes that, I need to avoid making in relationship. Oh, it does come down to communication, right? Like it is kind of like a refresher on, hey, don't take for granted the love you have in your life kind of stuff. So it's pretty great.
It is. It's funny because for a long time I was a big fantasy and sci-fi buff, and when I came back to reading romance and fell back in love with the genre myself, same thing. I saw that it had really modernized, and I found the whole character arc and coming of learning to become a better person was the way to breaking the barriers to finding love. I always found that very fascinating, and it's kind of one of my first things I do when I sit down to write a new story is I figure that part out first. So it's interesting you point that out. I'm gonna cut most of my questions, but I did have one. What type of character do you find most challenging to voice? And then what is your favorite type of character to voice?
Yeah, I think that's tough. I think the characters I find the hardest to voice are characters who hold in their emotions, because I have a hard time finding like variety of delivery. But I know that that's because I definitely prefer to answer the other part of the question. I prefer narrating characters who just don't give a shit, who just do not care what anyone else thinks of their opinions, whether they're a jerk, whether they're extremely fun-loving and they have no apologies to make to anyone, or if they're like a killer, right? Like, and they have nothing to lose, right? Like those characters are always a play because you can just, there's a lot of room for humor. There's a lot of room for like surprising myself as I read, but also like delivering surprises in the text and in the delivery. But yeah, I think those are probably the two. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm too long-winded. I want to answer.
No. I'm sure no one listening is going to object to hearing more of your voice. That's
I'm
why we're
laughing
here.
at the comments. The comments are all like, "Don't cut the questions, Brenna."
Well, I'm seeing everybody go by, and I'm so happy to see everyone. And I know Miss Parker was saying some compliments, and I'm happy to have worked with her. Good night. Nice to hear from you. But but yeah, let's we can keep moving forward.
Okay. Well, I heard through someone mentioned to me that in another interview you did, you had like a narration bucket list, or you'd mentioned that voicing a certain type of character was on your narration bucket list, and you'd mentioned that it was an astronaut. And of course, I had a bunch of excited readers come tag me because my other series, which no longer has audiobooks, I'm sorry, not yet has audiobooks, is astronaut. So I was just kind of curious about that. You'd mentioned that specifically. Are you a space junkie like me?
Yeah, kinda. I think you mentioned fantasy and sci-fi earlier, and I definitely, when it comes to space, I'm a lot more fascinated by like science fiction in space.
Cool. Well, mine aren't science fiction, obviously. They are still romance, but the heroes are astronauts. Oh,
He's got the circle of death again.
Well, we lost him. Well, when he comes back, we will talk about the astronauts. Do you want to just ask me something so we can move this along?
Yeah. Hang on. I wasn't prepared for another question, Brenna. Like, give me a second.
Well, I don't know. There might not be very many for me. I'm sure most of them are for Jason.
No,
that's okay.
Yeah, I have an order. You're confusing me. I have an order.
Sorry.
So can't do that one. Hang on. I'm so organized, as everybody can see. Okay.
Well, this is quite the interesting conversation. We've got East Coast USA, West Coast USA, and you're in Britain. So, I mean, we're quite the interesting.
So, I have a question from Lorianne. And she said, did you have Kat's story in mind already when you wrote the Adam and Mia stories? And how did you plot out the sequences of the books and whose story you told?
Well, that's an excellent question, Laurie. You know, it's funny. I had a vague idea in my mind. Okay, so when I wrote Adam E. Price, I actually had no idea. I just knew I had all these characters in there as like supporting cast, and I knew that they were going to have their own story later on in the series. I had no idea. I had an idea. I did know that Jordan's story was going to revolve around the viral sex tape. So I knew that, but you know, Jordan in the trilogy was just the annoying friend who hated Mia and who was super protective of Adam.
He was
and the playboy, you know. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Nothing.
Did you have a comment? Anyway, so I mean, I knew that his character. So I knew I was gonna have to like redeem his character a bit, because he wasn't very sympathetic in the trilogy. At least a lot of people were very angry at him, and from his point of view, he was just very protective of Adam, and but I think a lot of people were very judgmental because he was not very kind to Mia until the last book, when Mia got sick. And so, but I knew his story was going to have to be, I knew I had the sex tape story in my viral sex tape story. I knew it was going to be him because he's the playboy. It was just perfect. But I didn't even know who the heroine was going to be until I just kind of thought, well, I'm redeeming the hero. Maybe I should redeem the heroine too. So that's when I kind of picked April, who was also a big brat in the trilogy. And I really enjoyed writing that book because it was very challenging, because it was my way of redeeming two not so sympathetic characters. As for Kat's story, I had no idea when I wrote Out Any Price that I was even going to have her as a heroine. And then by the time when she comes down to California and shows up as a surprise for Mia in the middle of the book, in a moment, that's when I knew, okay, I think I want her to be a marriage of convenience, but I had no idea who the hero was going to be. So I kind of have a vague idea, and then the trope. In At Any Turn, I'd already figured out that William was going to kind of attach himself to Jenna and be in love with her, but I had no idea about what her background was until I sat down to write the book. And so when I sit down and write the book, I also look at a lot of what's going on in the news, and there was a lot of discussion about Syrian war refugees. And so I thought, well, I want to make her a war refugee. So that's kind of where I got the idea for Jenna's backstory. And so I made her a Bosnian war refugee from her childhood. So anyway, that's kind of basically, to answer your question, Lori, in a very long-winded way. I have a vague idea in my mind usually when the character's been around for a little while in the story of how I'm going to use them later. But I don't have the details all worked out until I'd have the time to think about it. But at that time, I'm focusing on the story at hand. So hopefully that answered your question.
I think that was a great answer.
Oh no. Jason, are you with us? I sometimes see the spinning wheel and sometimes I don't.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Take 3. Can you hear me?
All right, let's
Yes.
get him some questions, because I think.
I thought we were talking about astronauts.
Oh yeah,
gotta answer that.
Jason is an astronaut.
Yeah.
Jason, do you want to do an astronaut? Because
yeah.
I don't know though.
So,
The way you're so booked up, I don't know how that's gonna go. But
well, I would find some time. I think the thing about I think part of the reason why I would like to do an astronaut book is that I haven't done one yet. But also because I feel like there's a lot of room, even if they're, I don't know, are they both astronauts? Is one of them an astronaut? The other one's down on Earth? And there's a lot of, I'm a sap. There's a lot of room to do like really lovely stuff where it's like, I know you're up in the sky somewhere, like looking like, I know you're there somewhere. Like it's really beautiful stuff. And space is also so dangerous. So a lot can go wrong. And the distance adds such a beautiful thing to it. I don't know. I think there's just a lot of room for writing in that. But I don't know. It's just something I've never done, so that'd be cool.
I agree with you. There is a lot of potential there, and it's true that we focus on the astronaut, but actually the whole family has to go through a big sacrifice in order for the astronaut to just be able to do their work.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listen to audiobooks, Jason, or if you even have time, but I just want to recommend Scott Kelly, who's the astronaut who did the Year in Space. He narrated his own audiobook, and he talks about his whole year on the ISS. It's amazing, and I listened to it for research. But yeah. Anyway.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. I'd really like to check that out.
All right, Kelly, back to you.
Back to me.
Those are my questions.
Okay. Alrighty. So Jason, Brenna writes about some pretty deep themes. Do you ever need to research to get in the right mindset?
You say, do you research to get in the right mindset?
Yeah, like obviously
Um,
William with being on the spectrum. Did you to get like the voice of the character right?
yeah, I mean, especially if there's like an accent,
Mm,
and then yeah, if there's in the case of William, like somebody who's on the spectrum, getting an understanding of what would be too much or too little in terms of delivering believable dialogue that you don't want to make it too pervasive because I'm not personally on the spectrum, so
mm,
playing the role, I need to make sure to be sensitive to that kind of thing. But yeah, finding where maybe other performances of people who have performed that sort of thing, or listening to interviews. Um, Recently, there was a female character. The heroine was deaf in a book I read
mm,
recently, but she wasn't born deaf, I believe. I'm not, but she speaks throughout the book.
right.
Um, and so they pretty much directed us just to say, don't, you know, uh, get too deep into it. If it's
Yeah,
ever mentioned in the text, make sure that it's notified, right? And I think there are a lot of instances, even like if the character is on the spectrum or neurodivergent in any way, where the text will, perhaps the narration will identify that, oh, they, stuttered this
yeah.
sentence, right? Where you can add something that way. But no, when it comes to delivering it on my own, I don't want to take too many liberties with
Mm,
line readings when it's something like that.
yeah. Except Brenna, do you have any more audiobooks on the way?
Well,
Just out of curiosity.
depends on the very, very busy Mr. Clarke. um, I think so. To answer your question, the one I mentioned earlier, the holiday book, I have it on you're on the schedule, I think, but it's for later in the year. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
yeah, and so you're going to be doing all four of my heroes in that
yes.
one.
Oh, that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, because
I
each
I
of
gotta
them gets
say,
a point of view chapter. They get several point of view chapters, so you're going to be going. But just a little suggestion. When I wrote those stories, there are four different stories. I wrote each story separately, and then when I edited, I put them alternating. You might want to have to
oh,
do the chapters out of order like that. It might be easier for you.
gotcha. But, you know, I gotta say, I mean, that is exciting. I can't wait to revisit all of them. But I I really like Kat as a heroine. People have asked in the past, like, are there any heroines in these books that are like a dream girl? And Kat's amazing, and I love. There's a scene in the book where I'm not going to spoil anything, but she is able to, how do I word this well? She's able to express herself and her own opinions in front of a crowd of people
Yeah,
who
yeah,
wouldn't ordinarily appreciate that.
I know it's written.
And
Okay.
I know.
yeah, and the trope. I mean, the whole premise of the marriage of convenience really lends itself well to things like that, and I love how Kat handles it. She's also brilliant, and she's got all these great ideas for the dev team and for Lucas, and I yeah, I mean I rereading all these or bringing all these characters back for a holiday book is going to be so much fun, and it's going to make me be like, well, who are these people who I like the most? It's going to be tough.
I had a lot of fun writing Kat, and it was fun because I feel like she's my first real kick-ass heroine. I mean, I like to have strong heroines throughout, but she's the one I think could kick any hero's ass, and she's always been that way
Yeah,
throughout the whole series. So it was fun to finally get in her head.
yeah, it's awesome.
I had feet, and I was
Okay,
like, "Oh my God, no!"
back to you, Kelly.
I thought I was gonna have a visitor for a minute. No, we're
Oh,
okay. We're okay.
A short guy, huh?
Yeah. Um, hopefully not at 11:15 at night. So this from Jenna, and she asks, hang on, who are we asking? Okay, this is for Jason. Have you listened to the first books from the series, and how do you believe your narration has changed since then?
Meaning like the books that I worked on way back when,
Yeah,
or
like at any turn onwards.
uh, no, I don't think I've re-listened to any of those. I mean, apart from listening to voice samples to get a refresher on the characters. But I definitely have changed in my narration since then, for sure.
Mm.
I was going through. I had to submit a sample for something pretty recently, and I was going through old samples, whether they're on Audible or like compiling links of just past work. And I feel a lot different in how I approach narration now. I think I was a lot more high strung back then, and a little too preoccupied with how it sounded,
Mm.
like as I was reading. But now I think I've settled into something a little more comfortable, and I we talk about this as narrators, and I think as listeners, people have responded to it as well. We talk about switching between voices sort of on the fly, and that's something I've gotten better at.
Mm.
Where it's just these I just kind of switch to a different voice as I'm talking, like here and there, and it's so fun anytime it really clicks. Sometimes it doesn't exactly, and I'm like, oh shoot, I picked the wrong person, right? Like that's not the right voice. I got to go back. But if it's like 6 lines in a row and I can really go back and forth between them, I think that's something that is really satisfying, and it's something that comes easier to me now.
So this is actually for Brenna and Jason. It's from Jenna, and she said, what is that one moment in your life that you will never forget?
Wow. Brenna, you go first. I need a second.
Rude. No. Okay, I'm sorry. What is the one moment in my life that I will never forget?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm going to be real cliche here, but, when my kids were born, probably, just, I want to be super cliche. I mean, aside from that one, also probably when I published my first book, that was like the hugest high ever when I finally pressed published on Anthony Price.
I'm disappointed. I thought you were going to say it was when you met me.
Oh, well, that was one of them, Kelly. I met you in London, right? For the first time we met,
Yeah.
Right?
You did.
By the way, I'm gonna interject here. Jason, Jason, answer the question first, and then I have a question for you.
Okay. I think there's we all go through a lot of stuff in life, and there's a lot of great moments and sad moments, but there's one that kind of fits into both for me that I'll never forget, where I was at like a summer camp, and my brother was there too, and there was a really bad storm, and our camp had a tornado, and we had to like salute the flag after dinner, and the flag like blew off its pole. It was getting really freaky, and I was really scared of storms as a kid, and we had to run back to our campsites, and my brother like took care of me while I was like really afraid, and the rain came pouring down, and so that like moment like that was really integral to sort of like, I don't know, being away from home for one of the first times in a long time, and like spending a lot of time away from home, and then having something really freaky happen like that, and having someone to take care of me. That was really special.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You still close to your brother, even though you're both grown up now?
Very. Yeah, still really close. We got to see each other recently for a family event, and anytime we see each other, we just talk and talk and talk, and it's the best. Yeah, I love him very much.
Oh, that's heartwarming. I have 2 boys, so I hope they keep that as they get older.
I celebrated my brother's birthday tonight, and I just wound him up the whole time. So that's how that was.
Well, there's that too.
Older brother.
So, Brenna, you wanted to ask Jason something?
Oh yeah. You know what? I do this all the time. I forget.
Yeah.
I got distracted by the heartwarming story he just told. So, you know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll remember it again. I'm sure it had something to do with something. Yeah, I can't remember.
Did it?
Go ahead.
We were talking about meeting in London. Did it have anything to do with that?
Oh well, I think you have a question about his appearances, right? Future
Yes.
appearances,
Yes, there
right?
is something.
Okay,
Ah.
so I'll let you ask then.
Uh, okay. I told you I have an order and you're messing with my order.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So a few people have commented that they are excited to see you in Philly. And that's going to be your
Yeah.
first signing, right?
Yes, that'll be the first time. We've been getting some emails for it where it's like a collective email, and I'm just sort of CC'd on it, where people are
Mm,
talking about, for authors to make sure that they bring copies of their book, right? Because
mm.
that's so they can get it signed. And when I first got the email, I was like, am I supposed to have a lot of copies of a book? Like I didn't. I'm so naive and new to this. So I was like, am I don't know if I have room in my apartment to stack like dozens of copies of, like, shirtless dudes, and it's like I
That
don't know
not
if I have
the
boxes
vibe
and
you were
boxes
going
of that.
for?
Like, how am I going to get that to fill it up? But no, luckily, I don't think don't think I'm expected to provide the books.
No. People will bring the
But
books for you.
yeah, exactly. I'm very excited. I'm starting to think about it. Like, okay, how am I gonna? Am I? I've done like videos and stuff in the past, but
Yeah.
need to make sure I can hopefully not disappoint anybody.
I
Oh,
don't
I've
think
seen a lot of
anyone is going to
hearts
be
flying, and I
disappointed.
think, yeah,
So,
I
Thank
think
you.
there's a lot of excitement there.
yeah. So Cookie is actually asking, are you nervous for Philly?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Yeah, I it's close by. I'm based out of New York City, so that helps with it. But
Mm,
in general, I'm. It's been a long time since I've ever I'm not. If I've ever been like in front of a crowd of people, it's been a while.
mm,
So like sort of like having a lot of people in the same room listening to something I have to say or waiting to see me or something. So I'm a little unsure of what to expect, and I want to make sure can make sure I give everyone, any
yeah.
attention, and make sure that I'm not. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to consider, but I think the prevailing feeling is that I'm excited. I think it's going to be really cool, and I'm going to go home feeling probably very encouraged and grateful for getting to do all
Yeah.
this and getting to do what I do.
And do you
And
think you'll
exhausted.
do more?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unless something terrible happens, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that I could get into doing this, especially if it remains safe to do so
Yeah.
with coronavirus.
Brilliant. If you ever want any advice on signage, just message me and I can explain how
Oh
they
yeah,
work. That's fine.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm like, you need this? It's fine, I'll sort it. Um, so Lorianne has also asked, this is a question for both of you again, which book in the series is your favourite and why?
You go first, Brenna.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
You
You know,
do,
that's
and
like,
I'm gonna make.
what? I, it's like asking me which one's my favorite kid. That's a
Right.
tough one. Usually the book that's my favorite is the one I just finished because there's always, and I'm sure if you've followed authors before, you know that they go through this cycle of, I love this story, I'm so excited to write this story, and then as they're writing it, they freaking hate it, it's the worst book ever, and believe me, I went through all of that with, it took me a long time to write Lucas and Kat's book, and it's my longest book, very,
Yeah.
very long. Um, and so I love that one, but I think my favorite was for the holidays, just because it was my last one. I got to write everybody, and I was recovering from COVID myself. Well, actually, as I was in the middle of writing it, I got COVID, and then as I recovered from it, I was able to go back and finish. So it was kind of a bit of a journey, and I was able to get it out relatively quickly. So for me, and of course, this answer will change in the future, but for right now, I think for the holidays. And
Yeah.
now you, Jason.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got the title right because I knew which one has really stuck with me. But at any moment, which is I believe is when Mia really faces her illness the most.
Yep.
I was just reading it. I was so, I don't know. I was just so compelled by how they were able to get through it, um, and that you were willing to show them struggle, like even when they're trying to get intimate, and it's challenging for her, and it's just really uh, sort of sort of painful book, but the way they end and the way they come out on the other side is so beautiful, and I really like that one.
Oh, I'm glad. I shed a lot of tears writing that one. Um, and I was such a newbie author when I wrote that too. So it's
Yeah.
I think I think it was braver because of my naivete to go at places that I probably
Mm.
wouldn't go now when I wrote that,
Yeah, yeah.
and actually went a little further. And both my editor and a couple of my beta readers said, "No, you cannot, you cannot go that." So there was some stuff I had to cut out of there because it was a little bit too maybe too graphic. But I wanted to make it very realistic, and I think what kind of spurred me on to write the trilogy is, and especially that struggle, was just that for me, and the true romances are not just the ones that end at realizing you love each other and you want to be together. That there's the whole journey after that, and I kind of wanted to show that with them, and that's a little bit what I try to show with this for the holidays, but it's much more lighthearted. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, no one asked me, but William's
Okay.
book is my favourite.
I know what book is your favorite, so.
I know you. There's just something special about William. There just is. He'll
Yeah.
always be my
Yeah.
favourite.
Yeah, I was scared because, as Jason was saying about his, his research and his preparation for that role, I had to do a lot of research. I know people on the spectrum, and I also read a lot of memoirs and blogs, and watched a lot of YouTube to get the feel for how they talk. Because one thing that really bothered me, and I've read some other heroes, and I don't want to slag on other authors, but I've read a couple of romances with heroes on the spectrum, and a lot of times they talk a lot about being robotic and sounding like a robot, and I don't know, that bothered me a lot because it's not true. I mean, so I wanted to go a little deeper with that, and I think we lost him again. Everything went black.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. I'm just
Oh,
going.
okay.
Is that okay? All right, good.
Okay, good. All right.
So
What's next, Kelly?
yeah, this is kind of, you may have already answered this one, but I'm going to say it anyway because Jodie sent it and I want to make sure her question is asked. She says, who is your favourite character to perform from the series and why?
My favorite character to perform from the series. I really like the scenes between Adam and Jordan.
Yeah.
I think they bring out kind of like the best and worst in each other in a way. Like they sort of play off each other really well. And I think Adam feels really close to. I'm not a billionaire game dev, but I liked. I feel like I connected with him really well. But in terms of like having fun, Jordan is probably the most fun to perform. Yeah, he's always, yeah, I really like him.
And
My
Brenna,
assistant my assistant who has voice, or he's listened to all the books, and he's done all the corrections. But he says Jordan is his favorite voice, your favorite voice of
Oh,
his. He really really
okay.
loves Jordan, and I
Wow.
gotta say I do too. But I love them all. So I think you do such an amazing job with all of them that it's hard for me to pick a favorite.
mm,
Thank you so
mm.
much.
Brenna, who is your favorite couple?
Again, that's like asking who's your
And
favorite,
that's from
what's
Jodie
your
as well,
favorite
sorry.
kid. Gosh, who's my favorite couple? That's tough. Adam and me are the easiest to write for me because I've written like almost a million words on that couple alone. So they're
Yeah.
real easy to fall into. Um, but I love them all for just different things. I actually had a brand new editor who had never read the series, due for the holidays, and she got a sampling of all the characters, and she was so intrigued by William. She said, I had to go back and read his book, even though it's just for fun, because I just wanted to know more about him. So I loved William because he was such a challenge to write, and it was very, very important to me to get him right. I
Mm.
mean, right. I just wanted him to sound in a way that anybody who loves or is related to or loves or knows really well a person who is on the autism spectrum would be able to say, yeah, these things really resonated with me. And so it was very important for me to get him right. And Lucas, I liked Lucas because he was grumpy, and it was really, really important. I was just a challenge for me to show that soft center and have me and the reader fall in love with him, even though he was so grumpy on the exterior. So I know I totally copped out because I don't really have a favorite. I just love them all.
So Karen sent a few questions in, so these next three are all from Karen. Uh, Jason, what is something people would be surprised to learn about your process or audiobooks in general?
Surprised to learn. I think that's tough to say. I I think people would be surprised at how tiring it is.
Mm.
Not to like complain.
I
It
can
just
imagine.
yeah, you feel really drained at the end of a 5 or 6 hour session. Um, Not just vocally, but I mean, you if anybody has ever maybe done like a play, or maybe they took singing lessons or something and sang a song or sang for a long period of time, it really you can feel it kind of in your abs a little bit, because it's like, oh man, I've been like tensing up, kind of like really needing to get all my emotion out for a long period of time. And so I think people would be surprised. Yeah, it can be pretty tiring. um yeah, just because it's reading a book. But yeah.
Brenna, what? I don't know. Okay, what do you wish you spent more time doing 5 years ago?
Um, Gosh, 5 years ago, what did I wish I spent more time doing? I wish I would have spent more time just being able to let go of work. There was a while there where I was a bit of a workaholic and spending many long hours, um, because I was so worried about getting things just perfect and right. And while perfectionism is an admirable thing, it can also be the enemy of productivity, and even in many ways the enemy of mental health in general.
Yes.
So I think wish I would have spent a little bit more time with self care, spending time outside of work with my family, just nourishing my mind and my soul more. And that's something definitely that I've learned later on, as I've progressed.
Yeah. Okay. And Jason, what do you love most about narrating audiobooks?
I love the process of telling stories, even in like a social setting. I always have, and I think I was thinking about this earlier today, the closest I can get to describing what the enjoyment of reading audiobooks feels like is if you've ever seen a movie or read a great book and then you wanted to tell someone about it, and for whatever reason the person said, "Oh, I'm never going to read that," or I'm never going to see that movie, just tell me what it's about. And then you get that moment where you're like, okay, I get to tell them, okay, so it starts like this, and then this happened, and then you realize as you're saying it that not only are you kind of reenacting beats and lines that are delivered or twists and turns that come about, but the person you're telling is really starting to get invested, and it becomes this moment where you're like, oh, I'm getting to like kind of be a part of the story a little bit, and relive it. So my favorite part of reading audiobooks is sort of like the playing pretend moment where you get to almost feel like you're a part of the story, and you are kind of just making it happen, and that you're telling someone a really, really interesting thing. I love that feeling. So, and I get it with every single book.
Right. And there was another question which I forgot. Brenna, will you be continuing the series? And it actually says, will you be continuing the series for the next 10 years?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, everyone asks me, is there going to be another Adam and Mia book? Or, are you going to write this character's book? Are you going to write that character's book? And at some point, I'm going to have to wrap up and kind of focus elsewhere on another story. I've got so many ideas in my head that it's kind of hard to just, I mean, I love going back to the Gaming the System series because it's like going back home a bit, but I don't know if I'll ever call it done, but I may call it done for now.
Yeah.
At some point. 10 years, I don't know. I think I will have probably moved on, but you'll still see, readers will still see my characters, just like in the Astronaut series. Adam is in that, the first couple books, and so you get to see Adam in that, in a different environment outside of the gaming company. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be my challenge too, weaving, because as I write more stories, the population of my little world kind of grows, and so it becomes more of a challenge to interweave all these people in that people want to see. It's kind of like a TV series, and you want to see these characters and you follow their character line, and sometimes you don't see them for a couple of episodes, and so that's my semi-non-answer.
So this question is from Lorianne, and actually it's a question for Jason, but then it's the same question from your point of view, Brenna. So
Jason has to answer first?
Yeah.
All right, I love it.
Yeah.
Did you know when you recorded At Any Turn how emotional it would be and how strongly readers would feel about the series?
Well, I didn't know that it would take the turns it would. That's a terrible pun. I was surprised, honestly. No, I had no idea, especially once we got further into the series and Mia and Adam's story starts getting sadder. No, I had no idea. And I think I was spoiled because it was early on in my audiobook career, and it's still one of my favorite series I've ever worked on. So I'm glad that it seems to have held an impact for readers and listeners, and it certainly has done that for me.
Oh, thank you, Jason. That means a lot. I know you have
Yeah,
to.
absolutely.
And Brenna, from your point of view?
Did I know people were going to react the way they were? Well, I know because of my beta readers. And, I hate to do this, but again, as without any moment, the earlier version of that one was also pretty polarizing. And I had people writing me going, my beta readers going, I hate Mia. I hate her. Because the problem with that book, and I love that story, and I love telling that story, but it was because I was shifting to Adam. I'd been in Mia's head for an entire book, and I was shifting to Adam. There's always a protagonist and there's an antagonist, and sometimes the antagonist is not a person. Sometimes it's a situation, as within at any moment, it's a situation. It's them fighting against, and helping Mia heal. But in that book, Mia took the role of the antagonist because she had this issue and he doesn't know what it is. And I think I think in some ways I was a little bit too successful with making Adam sympathetic. And that's kind of odd to say because I mean, every author wants to make their point of view character very sympathetic. But Adam in that book is very controlling, and he's making a lot of mistakes. He's doing a lot of things wrong, but I think because people were so on board with him and his past and understanding why he had become so controlling, why he needed that control because he had grown up in a situation where he had no control over his life, that as an adult, he had grown into this, I'm going to control everything because that's how I'm going to be happy, and how he had to learn that he couldn't do that in his romantic relationship. And that's kind of where I was going for that, but I think people just really, really were very polarized in that book. And so if you look at the reviews of my book, that is the lowest reviewed book of all my books because people were upset at Mia and very sympathetic with Adam and more, willing to jump on board with Adam's mistakes and not understanding of Mia's reactions to those mistakes. So that's my...
So,
Yeah.
sorry, Jason.
No, I was just gonna say I remember kind of being like, "Geez, Mia, come on!" Like, I mean, I certainly sympathize with Adam, but yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that it was gonna be okay.
It's that's the thing. That's why I was willing to go into some dark places because it's a romance, and then it's always going to end in a happily ever after. So I kind of felt again in my naive author brain back then when I had only a book or two under my belt, I felt like I was kind of had the liberty to go in those dark directions because I felt like the reader's going to know that it's going to be all right. But obviously, I think I presumed a little too much.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. No, that's yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation of this name. So if I mess this up, I'm really sorry to the person that sent it in. So I think it's Angelique, and she asks, how long does it usually take you to finish one of Brenna's books, or a book in general?
It obviously depends on how long the book is, but Brenna's book, I mean, we just worked on this one, and I think it only took me 3 days of recording, maybe 4, because not to, I don't ever want to make you self-conscious because it's not a bad thing at all. There are other, Brenna's chapters are kind of long compared to, or at least there's less chapter breaks.
You're not telling me anything I don't already know, so go for
okay.
it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some authors that write, gosh, I mean, it's like 6-page chapters, right? Like,
Mm.
and so by the end of the book, you have 49 tracks that are all different chapters. Whereas with Brenna's, it's like chapter 15, but you've been recording for 3 days. So it's that's yeah. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying it takes about, probably for Brenna's books, 3 to 4 days.
Okay. And she also asks, do you get to choose the authors you work with? So say, how did she word it? Like someone like you like their book, so you just like approach them and say you want to work on their books, or do the authors choose you?
The authors usually come to me, or they go through a production company that they have a deal with, and then they oftentimes they'll, say, hey, I want to hear this narrator, or hey, I'm interested in having this narrator. So yeah, it's usually them coming to me in a sense. I have gotten to the point where I've not begun, I've been doing it for a couple of years now, where I've needed to, turn down some books just for scheduling reasons. And, if an author has a really strict deadline they have to meet, then I unfortunately can't work on it. But yeah, I mean, there are certainly authors who, when they come up with a project, I am really excited, right? Because I've either developed a really good relationship with them over time, or I've really enjoyed their books that I've worked on. And there's a lot of them. So I certainly get more like, oh yeah, this is going to be this kind of book, this author's book. So that's going to be nice. Yeah.
Awesome. And just to shout out to her, it is her birthday today, and she's also unwell. So happy birthday
Oh,
and get well soon.
happy birthday.
What's the most difficult part of the narrating process? And I think that's from Karen as well.
The most difficult part of the narrating process, I think the part of it that wears on me is that I think in a lot of forms of work, you can do some of the work idly. Like if you are like a project manager, or if you work in if you work an admin job, you can maybe take some work home with you, or you can listen to something while you work, or take your laptop on the couch while something's on. And, you can get a little bit of chip away at some work. But with narrating, the hardest part of it is that there's very specific parameters by which you can actually do the work. You have to be in a very specific place. Has to be very quiet. And then once you start, you have to pretty much remain pretty still. You can't make too many noises shifting in your chair like I am right now. So the actual setting up the parameters of doing the work, I think, is the hardest part, because you're kind of limited in that way. Yeah, but otherwise it's great.
Oh, what else have we got? Brenna, what's a day in the life of Brenna look like?
A day in the life of me?
Yes. I messed up that
Oh
question.
gosh, it's such a glamorous life. I get up, I eat bonbons, my limousine driver picks me up and takes me to well, that's the thing about working for yourself, is you got to motivate yourself every day. And sometimes you wake up and you went to bed, you had a bad night the night before, or you're in a bad mood because somebody said something rude to you, or your kids, you just got your kids' report card and they're getting a low grade or whatever. And you just kind of have to put it all away and immerse yourself in the story. And for me, I think the hardest part is when I'm drafting the new words. I love going over the old, the first rough draft and making it all pretty, and finessing the language and everything. So for me right now, I'm in the process of drafting a new book, and yeah, I just really have to get up in the morning, and I have a little morning ritual. I have my coffee. I read, a little bit of social media, but I try not to get too into it, and then I have to go right to work. So I set up my day ahead of time the night before, and if I have any appointments, I put it down on my schedule. But usually it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are writing days, all writing days. And then Tuesday and Saturday are the days where I do all the other stuff associated with the job, like, getting graphics ready or answering emails or talking to my editor or, sending some stuff out to my beta readers, etc. So, but Sundays I take off.
I just want to answer something in the comments real quick. Sassy Nerd Blog, just message me and I will get you the codes for the series. It's fine. So just shoot me a message. So Jason, how about you? What's a day in the life of Jason look like?
Well, lately I've been getting out to go to a studio again. So I wake up pretty early. I have a little bit of breakfast. I get on the train. I go down, get on the train, take it all the way out to the studio I work at. And then once I'm there, I'm actually the first one there. So I open up and then I stretch. I take time to stretch before I'm going to sit down and read for a while. Kind of warm up a little bit and then I read. I usually go for about 3 hours with little breaks here and there. And then I go back and I put another hour and a half in, and then I head home. And it's just a thrilling day. Once I get home, I really like to relax. Sometimes I take a nap, honestly. And around this time of day, once this time of day rolls around, I usually be doing After Our Live Today. And then once I get home, I make dinner and relax for the rest of the night, take care of emails and do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Cool. This isn't actually a question, it's just in relation to what you've just said. How does it feel to be back in the studio?
It's fantastic. I have liked recording from home. I moved at the beginning of this year to a new apartment and the recording setup wasn't great, and found that recording in the summer was extra hard because I can't run my AC unit without creating too much background noise. So that kind of created some issues for me. Sorry, I gotta charge my phone. And then, so yeah, getting back out to the studio where it's nice and cool and it's nice and quiet has been very refreshing.
So I don't have any more questions, but I did have a lot of comments that were just saying how much people love the series, how much they love the performances, how much they're fans of it and re-listening to it, and they want more.
Yeah, well, working on it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait to do more of it and revisit them.
I can't wait to hear you do it too.
Yeah.
The
No, it's
one
always
thing
cool because I'm not pausing. Sorry.
I'm pausing for you.
Okay, thank you, Brenna. No, one of the things that's kind of come up over the past 3 years has been this. There have been, I've gotten holiday books, not necessarily revisits of series, but just a writer will write a holiday romance, and I love it. Christmas is the best. I love the winter, so it helps me get in the spirit, I guess. It's really fun.
Okay, but what if you're doing it in the middle of the summer?
Gee. Well, that's kind of I don't know. It gets me in a maybe a fantasy mode because summer is not fun in New York City, I gotta say.
Yeah, I bet. I was just gonna say, just making remarks back to you. when you were talking about being able to go into the studio again, I imagine part of it too was just not having to be solitary anymore, because that is what I find the biggest challenge of being a full-time author. My day involved a classroom full of students, high school students, every day. And, I'd see up to 150 kids. And then I went, once I transitioned to becoming a full-time author, I started just basically only seeing my family members and during the day sitting in a room by myself with me and the computer, and that's it. And so that is also a challenge, being solitary. So, and then it made it a little bit easier to become accustomed to the pandemic lockdowns. But still, I mean, it still wears on you. And I always looked forward to being able to do those more social events like book signings and author conferences and those things, because that's where I kind of got my social interaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really miss even just working with an engineer on the other end to listen to me, to pick up mistakes, and it's such like a fun little simple interaction where we're kind of both experiencing the book together. And then we don't get to go to awards shows like the Audies or the Sovas Awards or whatever. Like, there's just so many different things that have been kind of taken away from us. And working from home is it's a really solitary lifestyle. So getting back to the studio has been nice to just see people in the middle of the day instead of walking out of my booth and I'm just alone in my home, Depressing.
And there's a few people commenting that they've not experienced the series before. Just like with the other time, just send me a message, and if I've got codes, I will send them to you for a review. So just hit me up. Look.
Well, are we done?
Laurie, I know that's you because of what you're saying. Stop teasing me with that bullshit. She's like, I'll get Jason to sign my copy of For the One. Look, I'm sorry I can't make it halfway across the world.
Well, hey, I might go live in Philly. I'll be sure to get active for those who can't make it. And I'll probably go live before I go anyway. I mean, it's not for a couple more months. So.
That's right, yeah.
Well, that's fun. We were trying to see if we get you invited to go to one of the rares. Those are the ones usually in Europe or the UK. I don't know how you feel about traveling that far.
Yes, I got someone mentioned one that was going to be in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, and it was so far away that I was like, that sounds awesome. I can't think about it right now. It's just, there's too much to consider, but it does really sound cool, and it would certainly be a moment where I'm like, wow, I'm getting to travel for audiobooks. That is something.
Yeah.
So I know doing those things, I always
You can hang out at Brenna's table.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure like tons of his authors would be there, not just me, because it is a pretty massive event.
It is.
But
yeah.
But that's not the point. So we'll keep him at your table. People can come and see him. It's
fine. Well, he'd have a lot to sign because he's done all the books. So, do you? I have a question for you, Jason. Is it normal for you to do all the voices in a series like you did with mine, or do you usually just do one-offs for standalone romances?
I think technically it is usually me doing like each book in the series. I think authors, sometimes they change it up, but I think the majority of the time authors prefer to have the same narrator on. I think there's probably a lot of reasons why, but there are times when I'll jump into a series and I'll just be some other dude in one of the previous books, and they'll send me files of the past narrator, doing voice samples and being like, okay, that's kind of the gist of the sound. But yeah, majority of the time it's just me.
Yeah, I was always told that when I got into the audiobook thing, and as I said, I was totally ignorant. A lot of people told me, oh, the listeners prefer to keep the same narrators, which was fine with me because I was so thrilled with both you and Kirsten's performances were so amazing. It was fine with me, and kind of made my job a little easier. But I was just curious.
Good for all of us. Yeah, I mean, we're guaranteed a job, and yeah, Kirsten. We don't get to narrate together much anymore, but whenever we do, I mean, she's excellent. So yeah, it's really cool to like unite over the same series.
Are you ever at the studio together, or do you guys are you ships passing in the night when you are narrating with another narrator?
Even if we are happening to be, because usually when we record, we try to the record window for both of us is usually around the same time, and then there are instances where we're both at the same studio. That's actually where Kirsten and I ended up. We met for the first time was we recorded the same studio, and she and I have had a couple instances where we were both in opposite booths recording the same book, but live. So we would like take breaks and then we would like talk about what chapter we're on. But no, it's very, very rare now to like be in the same studio working on the same book.
Makes sense.
Okay, so someone's got a question. It says, Jason, has there ever been a time on narrating an audiobook where you had to stop and be like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure about stopping. I mean, usually I get to like the end of the chapter and I'm like, God damn. But no, I think if I ever stop, maybe it's because I can't parse a sentence, or I deliver a line way too poorly. Say the character is like extremely sad and longing, and they, maybe the one they love is running away from them for the last time, and they think they'll never see them again, and they have to shout like, "Wait, come back!" Right? And I'll read the line like I just did. I'll be like, "Wait, come back!" And I'll be like, "Wait, that's nowhere near." And I'll kind of start to laugh at myself, being like, "That's weak. I gotta actually make that sound like he wants her to stay." So I'll have to like go back and kind of like assess. But no, I don't think there's any moments where I'm so sort of floored by the scene where I've had to like take a break.
Are there any books that you would recommend for new listeners to listen to for you? Like ones
No,
that you really enjoyed, or that
yeah.
focus your
I,
voice and
the Gaming the
showcase.
System series by Brenna Aubrey.
Oh, come
No,
on. You don't have to say it. I'm
read
looking anyway, so you don't feel pressured to say my name.
Well, really, it is a great series. But no, I mean, if I'm being real, there's no books that I would say don't listen to this one, listen to this one. Pretty much. I think I'm pretty happy with what I've done with books. I think most actors would say check out what I've been working on lately. But I think anyway, you can't really go wrong if you're looking for anything in the romance genre that either of us have worked on. I think it'll be a good experience. But yeah, something lately.
Well,
oh yeah, Rachel
funny.
Texas Hottie. The Brood series is a very good one. Molly McAdams. It's an excellent series.
She's a good writer. Very good.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, are we wrapping up now? It's been a while, and what do you think, Kelly? You have anything else you need to say?
No, we can wrap it up.
Okay.
Unless Jason has anything he wants to say.
Because I know you talk a lot. You talk all day for your job, and you voluntarily come on here to talk for longer, and so I really appreciate it. On the other hand, I barely talk at all for my job, so it's no big sacrifice for me. I imagine you have to do a lot to preserve your voice. Do you drink hot tea and honey and that type of thing?
When things get tough, yeah, tea is really good.
Yeah.
Especially at the start. It's something I learned because I studied voice for a little bit. Uh, Start with tea, and then if you're tired, drink something cold because it cools down your voice. Um, that's usually all I do though. And then I mean, I don't have any occasion really to like shout really loudly, which can hurt your voice. So no, but getting to do talkbacks like this, lives like this is a great time, and I was looking forward to it today. It's nice to get to interact with authors, and for the first time, you and me.
Yeah.
It's been really
Yeah, it's kind of strange. We've been working on the same projects for what now? This is about 6 years now, and this is the first time we've ever interacted, and so it's been really cool to ask you about it on how you approach it from your end, from the actor end, and so it's interesting how similar what we do is with the storytelling, and yet also very rather different too. So.
yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad you enjoyed Kat and Lucas and working on that book. And I've been getting some feedback, and everybody's getting tagged a lot in posts and whatever. And a lot of people are really enjoying the performance. So I just wanted to say, great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly, for sorting out all the technical issues.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And
Sorry
thank
for
you,
getting.
everybody else, for showing up.
I am going to try
Yeah,
and post it, but who knows what all Instagram does.
Okay.
But hopefully it won't get lost in the shuffle, so then people can watch it back.
Awesome. All right.
all
Bye,
right.
everybody. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Great night. Thanks for stopping by.